Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome. Another Monday night of race talk. Getting ready here in Long Island in the Northeast for another winter advisory, I guess. Still, the water's still receding from the last bunch of rain we had, but they're calling for snow up here. So, of course, racing season's starting, and it looks like it's going to snow to get us started. But anyway, tonight's show, in our segment of Where Are They Now, we got the champion NASCAR Cup driver, Dale Earnhardt. We're going to take a look back on his career. And we're also going to talk about 5-time NASCAR Wheel and Modified champion Doug Coby, who is breaking all kinds of records. We're going to discuss what went on in Las Vegas a little bit, some NASCAR news, some things that are going on in the racing world. And we got some news from our guest from last week, Artie Peterson III, and we'll go over that later on. But getting right into Where Are They Now? Dale Earnhardt Sr. Dale Earnhardt, born April 29, 1951 in Kannapolis, North Carolina, the third child of Ralph and Martha Earnhardt. And he had 2 brothers and a sister, so he was one of 4. He was known as the Intimidator, the Man in Black, the Count of Monte Carlo, and Mr. Restrictor Plate for all his success on the Restrictor Plate racetracks. His real name was Ralph Dale Earnhardt Sr. He was not named Jr. after his dad, Ralph Earnhardt, because his dad had a different middle name, but he is the father of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and that's no news to anybody that watches this show. Dale's father, Ralph, was also a good race car driver as well, winning his first and only championship in the NASCAR series in the sportsman division at the Greenville Pickens Speedway in South Carolina. Ralph, a racer, hard worker, did not, I repeat, did not want his son Dale to become a race car driver. Like my dad didn't want me even going to the races, Dale's father did not want him to be a race car driver. But Dale quit school against the advice of his dad to chase his dreams. Dale had 4 children of his own, Kerry, Kelly, Dale Jr., and Taylor, with 3 different wives. Entered Cup racing in 1975 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway in North Carolina, driving the number 8 car owned by Ed Negre. And from 1975 to 79, Dale drove that car in 8 events. 1979, teamed up with Rod Osterland, racing and winning at Bristol. He had 4 poles, 11 top 5s, and 17 top 10s. And he was 7th in the points and Rookie of the Year. The only driver to win Rookie of the Year, then the championship the following year in 1980. It's never been done before until then. In 1980, he won the Busch Clash and turned that season into 5 wins. The Busch Clash is what was called, as they call it, the shootout now, the week before the Daytona 500. In 1981, Osterland sold his team to J.D. Stacy, and Earnhardt left J.D. Stacy to drive for Richard Childress, finishing 7th in the points that year without any wins. In 1982, Childress suggested to Dale that he drive for legendary Bud Moore, driving car 15, a Ford. He won Darlington, but he had 15 DNFs, did not finish, and he broke his kneecap in a race at Pocono. 1983, he won his first of 12 twin 125s at Daytona, now known as the Duels. From 1984 to 1985, he went back to Childress, replacing Ricky Rudd. 1986, he won his second championship, and Richard Childress Racing's first owner's championship. In 87, he won his second championship by 489 points over Bill Elliott. 1988, new sponsor, GM Goodwrench. 1994, his seventh championship. 1997, winless for only the second time in his career. 1998, he won the Daytona 500 in his 20th try. And I'll tell you what, folks, I was there that day, and it was an emotional day, as instead of going and doing all those burnouts and ripping up the lawn, Dale Earnhardt drove down pit road, and every single team and crew member lined up on pit road to shake his hand. And I believe there's a picture of that scene, an emotional scene. And it goes to tell you, like in this sport, you know, you're friends up until the green flag drops, you're beating and banging, you're doing everything you can to pass another driver. When the checkered flag falls, that's all forgotten, and everybody's shaking hands. And that is the first and only time that I have ever seen that happen. It may have happened in other races, other events, other drivers, but I've never seen it other than that time. 2001, February 18th. Who could ever forget that fateful day when President of NASCAR, Mike Hilton, held a press conference and said, "We lost Dale Earnhardt." And there's that scene of them shaking his hand. I was there that day as well. And I had Dale Earnhardt on my scanner for the last maybe 20 laps. And he did not stop talking. He was talking to his spotter to tell Michael and Dale Jr., Michael Waltrip and Dale Jr. spotter, tell those two blankety-blank blanks to pick a lane. I can't hold off both lanes. And then going down the backstretch, he got real quiet. And then bang. And the place went silent. Yeah, Michael passes the finish line. He's the winner. Dale Jr. is second. You think it's going to be a good day. And I've seen a lot of crashes at Daytona, and this one just looked like any other. But as they say in life, when your number's up, it's up. That night when it was finally announced on the news that we lost Dale Earnhardt, to me, and I wasn't a Dale Earnhardt fan, I'm a race fan, it was like Superman died. He died after injuries sustained in that crash, blunt force trauma to his head, and a vascular skull fracture. And I hope I said that right. But it was just one of those things. He was a racer's racer. They didn't come any tougher than this guy. And when I say that, the first time I was at Daytona, I was at one of the twin 125s, and Rusty Wallace, who was driving a 2-car at the time, had done some stuff on the racetrack to Dale that Dale wasn't too happy with. Now I was in the pit area, I was down in the garage, and I was up on pit road, and the race ended. We walked back to the garage to see what's going on, and I see Dale calmly get out of his car, take off his stuff, and he's walking back to the haulers. But he walks into hauler, team number 2. And next thing I know, he comes out, and coming right out after him, not after him, but after him time-wise, was Rusty Wallace. Apparently Dale punched him in the head or something. But it was over. It was a done deal. It was over. But, you know, looking back again at the career of Dale Earnhardt, he took everything he owned and everything he had and went racing. He followed a dream. Yeah, he lost a wife or 2, or 3, as well, 2 he lost. But I think when he married Teresa and their business started to flourish and collectibles started to come about, and I can remember a man I worked with at NASCAR, Don Hawk, who was brought on by DEI, as they call it, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, to promote his collectibles. And a whole new spectrum in racing began, and people were making collectibles, and cars didn't change in the 60s and 70s and the 80s. They didn't change. They ran the same sponsors and the same color schemes. But once collectibles came out, that was another avenue to make money. And all of a sudden, they had these specialty cars and this car and a promotional car. And before you knew it, you know, in one season, a driver could have 5 different paint schemes. And Dale Earnhardt, or DEI, was very big in getting that started. But, you know, when you look back at the number 3, many fans feel that car 3 at the Cup level was Dale's number. It should be retired. That's retired. Hey, Childress, retire that number. But a lot of people, and there it is, that's the iconic 3, and I'm going to tell you a little something about that 3 that I didn't know until I started researching it. No team owns the rights to any car number. The numbers are owned by NASCAR and are assigned to you. Now, you could go to NASCAR, hey, I want number such and such, I want number 52, and there's not a lot of people that want car number 52, but if that's what you want and it's available, they're going to give it to you. It's your number to use. It's like I tell my kids when they were growing up and they say, get out of my room. And I tell them, this isn't your room. It's the room I let you use while you live here. Same thing with numbers in NASCAR. But anybody can apply for any number that's open, that's not owned by somebody. And there's a fee, of course, associated with that. But a little known fact about the number 3, Richard Childress Racing has made the iconic 3, that logo, a logo. So no other team can use the 3 painted on that angle in white with the red trim without the express written consent of Richard Childress Racing. I didn't know that. I just didn't know that. And you know, when you look back at Dale's career and some of his achievements or his awards, he's was entered into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame in 1994. He was named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers in 1998 at the 50th anniversary. He was NASCAR's most popular driver in 2001 posthumously. He was the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America in 2002. He's the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in 2006. He was named number 1 on ESPN's list of NASCAR's 20 greatest drivers back in 2007. And he was elected in the inaugural class of NASCAR's Hall of Fame in 2010. Dale Earnhardt Sr. ran 27 seasons in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. He had 76 wins, 7 championships, tying him with the king, Richard Petty, and now Jimmy Johnson with 7 championships. He made over $42 million racing. He also raced the Xfinity Series, which was the nationwide series back then. He did that for 13 seasons with 21 wins in 136 events. Dale Earnhardt Sr. is still talked about 17 years after his tragic accident at Daytona. His images are still all over the place. His collectibles still sell at a great pace. His son Dale Jr., who just retired from racing, did a good job, although he never met up with his dad's success. And his son, Kerry, his oldest son now, is in the Cup Series, trying to make it happen. Dale Earnhardt Sr., a man, the legend. He will never be forgotten. Never be forgotten. Anyway, our next competitor that we're going to talk about is Doug Coby. Doug Coby, born in 1979. Before going into the modified series, he was a 3-time quarter midget national champion. He moved to stock cars at the Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut, and he became the late model champion at the Stafford Motor Speedway in 1998. In 2000, he was the pro stock champion at the Stafford Motor Speedway. In 2002, he debuted in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Touring Series with 3 starts. In 2003, he ran a full season, 14th in the points. 2004, he moved up to 12th in the points. 2005, 7th in points. You knew this kid was going somewhere. 2006, his first victory in Tour Mods was at the Stafford Motor Speedway, basically his home racetrack. In 2007, 2008, Doug Coby ran the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour part-time. A, trying to get the right ride, B, trying to get a career outside of racing, because you all know you got to have something else to fall back on. 2009, back full-time, 11th in the points. 2010, drove for 5 different teams, trying to connect with somebody, maybe as a fill-in, whatever it took, trying to get it back. 2011, he drove a half a season for car owner Wayne Darlin, and the other half of the season for George Bierce. Ended up 5th in points. 2012, full season with Darling and their first championship. 2013, 2nd in the points. And missed one event. Could have been the difference. 2014, he replaced Todd Szagedy in Mike Smiglio's third's #2 car and earns his 2nd NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour championship. 2015, he becomes the 3rd driver in NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour history to gain 3 or more championships, and he had a career high in wins that season with 7 wins, and he had 6 poles, and he led 830 laps of racing that year. 2016, his 4th Tour championship in the Modifieds, joining him with NASCAR Hall of Famers Jerry Cook and Richie Evans, as well as NASCAR Hall of Fame nominee Mike Stefanik, and also Tony Hirschman Jr. as the only drivers in NASCAR 69-year modified history to win 4 or more championships. 3 straight in a row in the modern era, which began in 1985. Then in 2017, another championship with only 1 win that year, but he was consistent. That win coming at Seekonk in Massachusetts. Also, he had 1 K&N Pro Series start where he finished 4th at the Thompson Motorsports Park. 2018, we're ready to rock and roll. He's still with Mike Smiglio, the 3rd Racing. He is a real estate broker by trade. So he's trying to make it happen on the outside, trying to go racing. Now he is, he's getting up there in age, so I'm thinking that any opportunities to race in the Cup Series or any of those top series will be over. But you know what? That's okay, because he's making history. And don't be surprised if 10, 15, 20 years from now, when the NASCAR Hall of Fame balloting comes out, you're not going to see the name Doug Coby, because it's going to be there. He is definitely going to be there. I know Doug Coby. He's one of those guys, and I've done some traveling to go racing, and I've seen different things and been to different racetracks. Always willing to sit and talk, always willing to do an interview. He is a true fans driver. I don't recall any time ever that I ever saw Doug Coby be nasty to a fan, nasty to another competitor, get into it with somebody. He's a tough competitor, don't get me wrong, and he's going to rub rails with you, and you're going to bump and grind with him. But you know what? He never races you dirty. He's a clean driver. And I only wish Doug Coby continued success. And he's going to be the guy that people talk about, like when we were growing up, us guys my age, looking at the 60-year mark. And, we talked about Charlie and Richie and Jerry Cook and names like that, Stefanik. It's going to be Doug Coby in the years to come. And I only mean a couple of years to come. So good luck to Doug in 2018. Wishing him continued success. When we come back, we're going to talk about some breaking news from our guest from last weekend, Artie Peterson III, when we come back.
Hey, what's up? Oh, I said was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Hey, just wanted to let you know, like last week we had on our show the New York State Asphalt Legends Pro Champion in the INEX Series, Artie Peterson III was here. And throughout the show when they were on, we talked about things that in the future. And they did say that they were working on some things and they were talking to some people. And I'm going to say 20 minutes before airtime, a release came out, and it said, Ben Vecchio announced this afternoon that he has tabbed Artie Peterson III to drive the number 17 crate modified that was driven by his late father, Anthony, at Long Island's Riverhead Raceway for the 2018 season. Benny went on to say, I knew how much Dad loved racing, and he didn't have it in his heart to sell the car. Artie is a multi-time New York State INEX Legends race car driver. Most recently, as we discussed last week, in 2017. The new team will debut Saturday, May 5th, when the Riverhead Raceway presents Cinco de Mayo opening night. This is a big opportunity for Artie Peterson III. I knew Anthony Vecchio. He was one of those guys that when I showed up at Riverhead, which wasn't that often in the past few years, he was one of those guys that when he saw me, he'd stop what he was doing, come over, shake my head. We'd joke around, do the little jar, back and forth. And I say to him, "You still doing this, Anthony? You still doing this?" And he goes, "Yeah, what else am I going to do?" Unfortunately, cancer took his life. But you wouldn't know there was an issue. The last time I saw him, it was all good. And he loved this race. And I remember he drove a Super Pro truck and, always talking and joking and having a good time. And this opportunity for Artie Peterson III is big. They have nice sponsorship with a Long Island car dealership, which is big in itself. This young man, in my opinion, is going to end up, and I'm going to say this right now, I don't think it's impossible to see Artie Peterson III maybe take down some Rookie of the Year honors, definitely some victories, but look to see him in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour in 2019. I'm usually right about these things. Been around for a long time, seen a lot of talent, seen a lot of guys that weren't so good that had the same hopes and dreams. But as I said in last week's show, when it comes to racing, it's a very passionate sport. Not that all the other sports aren't, but I'm not thinking an NFL quarterback is calling a quarterback of the team he's going to play next week and give him advice. I'm not thinking if a baseball pitcher hurts his arm, a pitcher from another team is going to help him recuperate, help him rehabilitate that sore arm. I don't think a guy in hockey is going to call a guy from the Islanders, isn't calling a guy in the Boston Bruins or the Philadelphia Flyers and saying, "Let me show you you're skating wrong. You need to do this." You don't see that in other sports. Racing, you see that. Helping each other. And the biggest help that you could get in auto racing, and I'm going to say this, and I've said it before, is the help of family. Whether you're a car owner, whether you're a driver, whether you're a crew chief, whether you're the guy that helps all night, all week long in the shop, whether you're the guy that just shows up on Saturday because you want to belong. You still need the support and backing from your family. Think about this. Think about working on your race cars night after night in the shops and the time away from your family. And let's face it, the season starts. You're talking every Saturday just about from May through September. You miss a lot of stuff. You miss a lot of family stuff. Racing becomes your life, and the racing people become your family. And we've all done different things. If you're watching this show, I'm sure you're watching because you're into racing, whether you're a crew chief, a fan, a driver, owner, a PR guy, or a track operator, or even the big boys down in NASCAR trying to see what I'm going to say next. You're into racing. You're into racing, and it's a way of life. It's not just, it's something we do, Something you do is you go down to the local tavern and you play darts on Tuesday nights. Or something you do is something you do when you go bowling on Wednesdays. It's a passion. Racing is a passion. And I'll tell you what, the Peterson family, I've known Artie's dad, Artie Jr., Artie's two brothers. I raced with one of them and I watched the other one race. And even mom and the siblings. It's a family and family support. And I've always wondered, and I've said this to families who have two boys that race, it always seems like one starts to take off when the other one either chases another dream or, he's sacrificing for the brother. There's always one, the Gooddales. Kevin Gooddale was on the Modified Tour, with the family support. And then all of a sudden Eric comes around. And Kevin decides the family business was a little more important than going racing. Now Eric's taken off. I can remember the Shivers and with the late models at Long Island's Riverhead Raceway. Larry and and his brother. And you know, it's like when you look at that, all of a sudden, one became not less important, but all of a sudden, the one brother's winning championships in late models, and then he goes on to the modified tour. You look at those things, and I've always looked at that and said, wow, you know, it's not like the Kurt Busch and his brother Kyle Busch, you know, they moved up at different eras, the Waltrips. There's a generation difference between Michael and Darrell Waltrip. You know, when you look at those things and the family support, you know, and especially when you're racing in the local racetrack, it costs a lot of money to do that. And I know people, they work 2 and 3 jobs to make it happen. I know people who bang their doors down every opportunity they can to seek sponsorship. And to be given an established race team with a competitively proven race car with a big sponsor, there's no telling what this kid's going to do. So, as it was said last week, I knew some stuff was in the works and we really couldn't talk about it. But you know, the last thing I did is I checked to see any news, and there it was. So, Benny, I know Benny for quite some time now. Benny's a good guy. He's always helping out somebody with race cars and parts and whatnot. But this is the opportunity of a lifetime. So, a big thank you to Benny Vecchio for keeping the passion, keeping his brother's memory alive with the race car, and giving some kid from Long Island an opportunity. So good luck, Artie III. Good luck to Benny as an owner. And it's all good. And this is why we do this, and this is what it's all about. Puts a smile on your face, gives you something to look forward to. And you know that you're loved just by the people around you. And when you go racing, I'll tell you what, you know who loves you, you know who hates you, and there's no middle. Trust me, in racing, there's no middle. And anybody that's ever driven a race car or owned a race car knows that. Anyway, we're going to take a break and we come back. We got some stuff going on in NASCAR that we're going to talk about. Some good news for the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour and what went on in Vegas when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Less Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Anyway, Vegas. We'll have the results in Vegas a little later on, but many questions concerning Kevin Harvick's flexible rear window. I watched some video of this thing, and it's interesting to see how, under caution, sitting on pit road, his rear window is like the way it's supposed to be, like it is on the other 37 cars that showed up to race at Vegas. But at speed on the racetrack, You can see that it's flexing. A couple of teams that were following him on the racetrack for any portion of the race radioed into their spotter, crew chief, whatever, to say this. NASCAR took a look, and the car was in fact impounded, and it's on its way to Concord, North Carolina, to the R&D center to be checked out. A lot of people say, how come this didn't get caught in templates? Because that's all lasers. That thing comes down, and they run the laser to see if anything's off. And you know what? You're not going to catch it, because when it's sitting still, it's not flexing. And the officials aren't inspectors. They're not pushing down. They press a button, boom, the thing comes down, goes on top of the car. They get their little field of gauges, they measure, good to go, off. Now, they're not going to take the win away. They're not going to take the prize money away. I'm sure after they check it out and find something, there's going to be fines and probably the crew chief suspension. And I'll tell you what, it's funny on the weekly tracks when there's an issue with a race car, in the states, and just about every weekly racing series rulebook, the driver's responsible for the actions of the crew and whatnot. And it's only at the top 3 levels where the crew chief's responsible. You know, not the car chief, not the fabricator back at the place, not the car owner who probably approves some of these things, not the driver, the crew chief. A lot of weight on the shoulders of a crew chief. But, you know, when you see this, you see stuff like this, I don't have, it's going to be weird me saying, I don't have a problem with a team pushing the envelope. I don't have a problem, back in my official days, for a crew chief trying to get something by you. And, you know, in a quick story, here I am, I'm probably at New Hampshire. In fact, it was New Hampshire. And I'm looking at one of the cars, doing my normal, let's measure this and get this and all that kind of good stuff. And the car owner and the crew chief are standing shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, ankle to ankle. That's how close they were on the race car. So I'm saying there's something behind them that they want me to find. Because if I find that, I'm not going to look too deep for what's really going on. So I asked them to step aside. By golly, I find something. Imagine that. And just a mistake. I will fix it. And they fix it. So now I got to reach into my back pocket, get out the fine-tooth comb, and I find out what was really not right. And there was some discussion back and forth, and you know, I don't know what I'm doing, and you don't know what you're looking at, and get a new ruler, get a new this. And as it turned out, they were wrong. They had to fix it before qualifying. And these are the things that happen. That's their job as a race team. That is their job, to push the envelope. And I know in every level of NASCAR racing, a lot of rules were written and rewritten because teams pushed that envelope. They pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And I always said, you know, especially in the local level, in the weekly series, you know, if I caught something that wasn't addressed in the rules, you know, I didn't make a big thing out of it. The only thing I made a big thing out of was a competitive advantage or a safety issue. So what if a guy wants to do this to his car? It's not going to make him go faster. It's not going to make him handle better. It's not going to give him more pull off the corners. It's not going to make him turn better. And it's not an issue that somebody could get hurt with. I'll let it go. But I make a mental note of it for next year, and it might be an addendum to the rules. And you look at these things, and there's some teams over the years at every level, whether it's Cup, the Xfinity, Truck Series, or the weekly guys, or any touring series, where rules were written because of something that the team tried to get past the officials. Happens all the time. But you know what? That's how it all started. Now, think about the evolution of auto racing. Auto racing started, as Richard Petty says, when the second car came off the assembly line because the second car wanted to beat the first car to the staging area where they park them before they went off to the dealerships. And he's not, he's not mistaken by that. But racing goes back, and here on Long Island, the Vanderbilt Cup races, like 115 years ago, where they raced on a road owned by the Vanderbilts that went from the Queens line on the far western part of physical Long Island and all the way to Lake Ronkonkoma, around the lake and back. So anybody who's familiar with Long Island will know that that race probably started around exit 20, where the expressway is. And just, I'm giving you a mile because that's not where the track was. It was really ended up being Northern Boulevard and the Northern State Park, or the Vanderbilt Motor Parkway. And it ended like at exit 61. And then they turned it on back. Now think about that at 6 o'clock in the afternoon trying to get home. That would take you about 2 hours. I don't remember how long the race took. I wasn't there. I don't want any jokes. I know you're old enough to know. But when you look at when racing started, now everybody wanted an advantage. Everybody tried to push the envelope, even way back then. And rules were written to fix that. So it's be interesting to see what NASCAR comes up with on the Harvick car, because if they don't come up with something, you're going to see at the next event, maybe a couple more, and the event after that, a lot more doing the same thing. Anyway, speaking of Cup, wow, Chartered Cup team, BK Racing, is in trouble. Not with NASCAR. They're in trouble with the IRS. The team filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection 11 days before the Daytona 500. The IRS claims that BK Racing owes over $2.5 million in back taxes and penalties. BK owns their bank over $8 million. BK owner Ron Devine told NBC Sports that he filed for bankruptcy to protect and prevent the bank from seizing the team's charter to compete in NASCAR. Now, Union Bank and Trust refused to comment on this, obviously, because they just have nothing to say. But however, it has claimed in court papers BK Racing lost $28 million from 2014 to 2016. Now, we all know when you miss out on your house payment or your business payment, the bank wants to take your assets, but the bank doesn't want to own a race team. But what they could do is hold a charter, and that makes for one less charter team, and you would probably have to buy the charter from the bank and probably have to pay the debt on top of that. So BK Racing is in trouble, and we're going to talk about a little bit when we talk about Vegas, some of the issues that the teams are having moving forward. But I'll tell you what, everybody thinks they make so much money. Even at the Cup level, you could win the race and still lose money that weekend. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8, Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Rich Willie. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on.
Or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, before we get into the Vegas race this past weekend, the activities, just some NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour notes real quick. The NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour will be getting a big increase in the winner's share in the 2018 season. According to NASCAR Home Tracks, Series Director Jimmy Wilson confirmed that the winner's share for most of the races will increase to over $10,000 to win. This increase is not from NASCAR. It's not from the track operators. It's from Whelen Engineering, the title sponsor of the series. Whelen Engineering in the past has given what they call a winner's bonus, a $500 winner of the race award to the pair in the past to the winners. Whelen Engineering has increased that award an additional $3,000, which means the winner of the race award from Whelen Engineering will be $3,500. Other than the quarter-mile racetracks that the Tour races on, most events pay between $6,000 and $7,000. So you're talking $10,500 to $11,000 to win. The New Hampshire race is supposed to be a big paying race. It always was, but back in the day when it was $11,000 and $12,000, if that purse structure was the same, there'd be $15,000 to win. The good thing is that the smaller racetracks, like on Riverhead Raceway and Monadnock up in New Hampshire, that only paid about $3,000 to win, will now get that same $3,000 bump, which gives them $6,000 to win the event in the NASCAR Whelen Modified Touring event. Phil Kurz, Executive Vice President Motorsports Marketing of Whelen Engineering, who is very big in NASCAR and very big at Whelen Engineering, who pushes and pushes and pushes hard for the teams, still fighting to make the shows one day instead of 2 and 3. But he's always fought to get the purse where it needs to be. And even at $10,000 to win, it's not enough. It costs you more to compete between your tire bill, your fuel, your travel expenses, your hotel rooms, and eating. So Phil Kurz is continuing to push and push and push. And you know, my mom always used to say, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So Phil Kurz, through Whelen Engineering, has stepped up, and he's now part of the solution to put more money in the purse for these guys who spend a lot of money, travel far distances now with this new scheduling to make it happen. And I'll tell you what, I know Phil Kurz on a personal level, and he's it. He's not some guy just blowing smoke. He's not some guy that says, yeah, okay, yeah, well, let me look into that. No. When he says, let me look into it, he'll be back to you. If not the next time he sees you, maybe the time after that, and say, this is what we got, guys. So thank you, Whelen Engineering, on behalf of the NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour, for giving that extra bump to these teams that go out there and make it happen. Anyway, the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, along with the Xfinity and Camping World Truck Series, were at Vegas this past weekend. And it's a little disappointing that only 37 cars showed up, but here's what we got for that. The winner of the race, Kevin Harvick, even with his freaky fast race car flexible rear window, was the winner. Kyle Busch second, Kyle Larson third, Martin Truex Jr. was fourth, Ryan Blaney fifth, Brad Keselowski sixth, Joey Logano seventh, Eric Jones was eighth, followed by Paul Menard ninth, and Eric Almirola rounding out the top 10. Ryan Blaney started from the pole, and again, he was a top 5 competitor. And 37 cars showed up. 35 of the 36 charter teams with guaranteed starting spots showed up. So one team didn't show up, and I'm going to say show up, not that they failed to qualify, because they're starting 40, did not show up. And 2 teams that might not have made it if there was a full field were there. And you know, the day to start in park, I think, is over. But I have a concern here as a race fan. As a reporter of racing, I have a concern. And this is one of the things that were discussed in social media, like since the checker flag drop, is what's going on, NASCAR? What's happening? Where are all the teams? You know, you have a charter team that's filed bankruptcy, owes $28 million, or the IRS $2.5 million. trying to operate, there's a problem. NASCAR, there's a problem. You need to take a look at that. And then there was a lot of people in social media that were complaining that only 22 cars were at least a lap down. I can remember back in the old ABCs, Wide World of Sports days, where they'd show the start, they'd show some passing, and they'd show maybe some wrecks to show the finish. And in between all that was alpine downhill ski racing, curling, figure skating. You know, you really never got to see the whole race. But I can remember a race where the leader had lapped the field 2 laps. White flag flew, and I wish I could remember the race because people are going to say, no, that didn't happen. But the white flag was dropped. Leader blows a tire. Wait, not allowed to say that. Goodyear gets upset. The leader has a tire go down, and they're in the wall in turn 1. And you know, the white flag, back then, once the white flag came out, you raced back to the start-finish line. I mean, once a yellow was thrown. So now that everybody's racing back because the white flag was thrown, it took 2 laps to get the leader because the leader was that fast that day, or that lucky, or just that good. So I don't have a problem with 22 cars being at least a lap down. I don't have a problem with that. You know what? You know why? Because in my opinion, now that front pack, that first through fifth, sixth, whatever, they got to slice and dice through the lap cars. You know, like years ago, where on a restart, the lead lap cars were on the outside, the lap cars are on the inside. And if you were penalized, the biggest penalty you get is tail end of the longest line. See, now the tail end of the longest line is like the difference between 23rd and 24th because it's side-by-side double file restarts. But you know what? I think it makes for good racing. Some people say, it's boring. You know, the purists, those of us who have been watching this business for 50 years like I have and watching racing, you know, that was racing. That's how they did it. You know, you went down laps. There were no commercial timeouts, as I call them. There were no caution flag debris calls for no debris because the commercials on TV. TV's ruined this sport. That's where the problem is. And with all the billions that TV's putting into this race into NASCAR, it's not filtering down to the teams because you shouldn't have charter teams that are going bankrupt. You shouldn't have a charter team not show up at a race, and you shouldn't say, you 36 are guaranteed in even if your car's junk that day, because it's all about TV. And the reason that they took away the beating and the banging is because corporate America, Fortune 500 companies who have their names on cars, they don't want to see the Darlington stripe. They don't want to see that the logo got ripped off because here's a guy who's driving real hard to pass people, tearing the paint off his race car. Now he's running up front, but it doesn't say Acme Corporation anymore. It just has scraped paint and scraped metal. And that's the problem. And we've succumbed to corporate greed. They don't care who wins. All they care about is their logos on TV. And if they're racing side by side, beating and banging, bumping and cruising, their logo's going to be washed off. And you know that? Back in the day, you knew the 21 car of the Wood Brothers, just from its paint scheme. You didn't need to see the logo where it said Purelator. You knew that was a 21 car. You knew the 43 was the STP Richard Petty car. You knew that. You knew that from the color schemes. It's just not the same today. And you know what? You want to go have a follow the leader, you want to have a parade without music, so be it. When they're doing their pace laps, do it for 500 miles, and it's all good. The cars will come off pristine, nobody will be mad, and nobody will be upset. But when I saw the fallout on social media, you know, I look at that stuff, I read what they say, and you know, some people just write that stuff to hear themselves talk, and some people just want to stir the pot. But, oh well. That's how it's going to be until things are changed. Anyway, Xfinity Series. Xfinity race was Most of the people that I talked to that watched it took a nap during the race. I, for one, actually watched the whole race because I took a nap in the morning. Anyway, the winner there was Kyle Larson, followed by Christopher Bell. Justin Allgaier was third. Ryan Blaney, fourth. And we followed by Elliott Sadler in fifth. Daniel Hemrick, sixth. Brandon Jones, seventh. Tyler Reddick was eighth. Cole Custer, ninth. Spencer Gallagher rounded out the top 10. And Christopher Bell was the pole sitter for this event. And a lot of complaints from people that the Cup drivers should not be in these races. They use them as a test session. They don't even get points. I don't know. I'm from old school. Whoever shows up to race, as long as their car goes through check, let's go racing. I don't care if he's a Cup driver. It'd be like complaining at your local racetrack that the feature series guy shows up with a car in I'll call a lesser division, because let's face it, there are lesser divisions. I get beat up for that all the time because, oh no, they all strap in and do the same thing. It's a lesser division, trust me. They all get upset because that guy, modified driver, let's say, on Long Island, decides he's going to race in a street stock. Okay, he wants to go have some fun, you know? But I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, the truck race, Tampa World Truck Series, was also there Friday night. And an interesting race, a lot of beating and banging, bumping and grinding. But Kyle Busch, he started from the pole. And he ended on the pole. He was the winner there. Johnny Sauter, second. Brett Moffitt was third. Grant Enfinger, fourth. Stuart Friesen was fifth. Dalton Sargent, sixth. Ben Rhodes, seventh. Cody Coughlin, eighth. Justin Fontaine, ninth. And rounding out the top 10, Austin Hill. Now let's talk about that briefly. I know we only have a few minutes left, but I'm going to talk about this real quick. The Truck Series, when it first started, way back when, was designed for new guys coming into the series and for older guys who just, not that they couldn't make it in Cup, but they didn't have the money, the funding, or the equipment, so you can go truck racing. And truck racing was the way to go for new guys and gals, and some of the guys that were on their way down. Kept them in racing. My question is, this Xfinity Series, you want to put more cars in the Cup Series? Eliminate the Xfinity Series. Eliminate it. Wipe it out. Just my opinion. You wipe it out, because half or a third of the drivers that are in it are Cup drivers. So let's just put them in there. You're going to say, well, they don't have the experience. You got 18-year-olds driving a Cup. Come on. You have kids. It's no longer the talent. It's how big daddy's checkbook is. And you got a big checkbook and you got a kid that raced, you're getting them a ride. You can train them, put them in the simulator, rent time at a racetrack. You'll get them going. But it used to be, hey, Goggles Paisano, I heard he races up in New York. Let's go check him out. And they go check him out, and they check him out, and he's winning, and he's doing well, and he's saving the equipment, he's not wrecking. They give him an opportunity. Those days are gone. Doesn't matter how good you are at your local racetrack. If daddy don't have a big checkbook or you don't have a big checkbook, it ain't happening. It is not happening. Anyway, I think it's almost time to wrap up. So, what can I say? What can I say? A crazy weekend of racing, and these mile-and-a-half cookie-cutter tracks need to go. They need to go. And if you looked at the surface of the Speedway in Vegas, it's got that hot sun beating and banging all summer long, and the track was like racing on the cobblestone streets in Brooklyn, New York. They had in-car cameras, helmet cams, and when you see a driver going like this, and his horse bouncing all over the place, that's not good. And as for the crew chief to set up a car to work that way, man, that's got to be a tough gig. Tough gig. If you're going to race on a track, if your racetrack is going to be in the top series, the top echelon of racing in stock cars, what you need to do is you need to make sure your facility's the same way. Anyway, we're going to wrap up tonight, so I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedules, whether you're in the chat room, whether you watch live, or you're going to watch it during the week. And for those who are using our new Facebook Live to watch our show, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everybody. And wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this week, I ask you to be safe, be careful, give somebody a hug, tell them you love them. God bless you all. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.com.